Babies, my babies, how are we? Today's video is a bit cute, special, unique, all good stuff. It's inspired by a guy that I kind of like gave me momentum when I was trying to learn music. And so before that, updates. I mean, the best I can say is just, I don't know. Uh, I really think something has to hold us accountable beyond ourselves. The reason I say that is because sometimes, even though you're doing exactly what you say you're going to do, it still doesn't kind of like fill you up in a way that kind of like, I don't know, that brings out the bestest of experience, I guess. I don't know if it's the monotonousness or something. Like one guy actually like on the channel, shout out to you, man, mentioned once that we are kind of like we're drawn to just the I don't want to say innovative. He used a different word. We're drawn to, it's not even authenticity. 1 second. I'm just going to do it, man. Just going to do it. Watch your videos. 1 second. Stay with me. Let me read it in a beautiful way. All right. Fuck me. Sorry. My internet's super bad. But there's a word he used, and I don't want to butcher his stuff. A habit of normalization is the worst thing we can do. That's something I said. And novelty. Use the word novelty. Thank you, C Money. So it's the mundane acts that actually matter. I completely understand, but also like their novelty kind of has to reveal itself among them. And it's normally not the experience's fault. It's our fault for kind of doing the same thing without approaching different changes. Sometimes you don't need to, right? That's how like momentum can. I don't know. I think momentum is is momentum a flow on its own, has nothing to do with your flow, because your flow is kind of getting things done, but that's when you kind of like start enjoying the stuff you already know, and then you're being ingenuitive on your own. But just the past couple of weeks, I've been feeling exhausted, man. I've been feeling not pressured, as in like pointless, and it's weird because like everything is opened up a bit, but there was just a lot of energy that was dramatic around me, and I just like didn't know how to handle that. But thankfully, I think like I had to make a decision at one point, and being able to make an open decision kind of allows you to free yourself, openly making a decision. So that's me holding myself accountable because I only have control of what I can do. So I basically like drew a line when it came to me. And funny enough, when I drew the line when it came to me, everything kind of like everything that I wasn't really doing in a way that's a bit more approaching to how I would do things, or at least how I would engage with things, kind of like explored itself as if like it was going, aha, this, and this. And I was like, oh shit. And so I was stuck in some sort of momentum. It was partially because I felt like I had no control. And I'm talking about work, man. It's like personally making a decision in order for the objective reality that I'm approaching, right? The experience of this reality that I'm approaching. And so the update is kind of like need to have somebody to hold, or an external force has to hold you accountable. The reason for that is because like Alan Watts says that like the smarter you are, you're the easiest person to fool because you're kind of like always negotiating and eventually becomes convincing yourself of stuff. A big like essential emotion right now it's having going around with me is why am I smoking again? It makes sense in my head logically why I'm smoking. It's because it regulates my. I don't. I feel lost when I actually work a lot, but when I smoke, it kind of like humbles me, brings me down. Something like this, like regulates my dopamine, basically. So So that's just we kind of like reason with ourselves in a way that outsmarts us instead of kind of like allowing ourselves to be exposed or explored. And I feel like vulnerability that we have always kind of finds a way to like wrap it, find a place, something to wrap it. And ultimately, what we end up doing is kind of like engaging with something that becomes very opposes the universal change that's always happening, especially when you're moving. So you kind of gain momentum and not actually like evolving, but you gain momentum in the repetitive tasks. And so calling yourself out is something very important. But like there are many ways for you to always kind of like come back to that stuff. Because every single time you're doing something in a new way, you have to call yourself up out with something that's, I mean, like I want to say that is acceptable by this new way. If you call yourself out with the old way, you're already like one step forward, one step ahead. So you have to kind of like evolve or just kind of really it's just that objectivity. But anyways, today's video, less is more only when you know what more is. It's a beautiful quote. Here we are. Less is more only when you know what more is. It was done by, oh man, I forgot his name. Oh, fuck, YouTube's too slow today. But he's a guy plays multiple instruments, and it's just like when it comes to music, he's ever since he was a kid. Ever since he was a kid, he was like all over the place. So he has like his room is literally just like all kinds of instruments. And he says that because he was discussing about how he gets excited when he's like approaching a new song and how he kind of like goes all over the place where everyone's kind of like calm down, don't worry, like take your time, do the basics. But he explains it in a more saying less is more only when you know what more is a beautiful reflection of you kind of have to expose what you can do until you refine yourself to do it in a way that suits you and best kind of like works. And I don't know how I want to address the changes that you could actually like objectively approach when it comes to this, but it's more like akin to like the more you fuck up, the more mature you kind of become, or the wiser you become, or the more experienced you become, right? It's like ultimately, sometimes you're doing the same thing in a different way, and it's still giving you the same results, but it feels like we had to be sure first. Less is more only when you know what more is. And at times, man, it's just kind of okay. So let me share this experience with you. Last year specifically, like for the most of it, I was genuinely just experimenting. I was just like, no, what is this? I have no idea. All right, so let's research about it. Let's jump into it. Let's try to do something with it, and let's see how we feel. And it's funny because like I kind of like pragmatically organized them in a way where like the things that I know need me to actually have more time spent on them. Instead of spending 8 hours a day, I would spend 2 hours a day, but I extended. So I started with those first, and I started including other things afterwards. Slowly, slowly, it kind of builds up your kind of like mental mind map and mind frame, the framework of your mind on how you approach things. But the framework that I see inside of me right now is kind of like it's just like playing a game, and you're like approaching the game, but you have like the black spots, but then you have shady spots. But yeah, and the more you travel in the game, I'm going all the way back to Legends of Zelda, man, and like just like the 2D Mario Brothers, not the one that moves like this, the one that moves like this. And so the idea behind it is those games literally would have like, oh, Command and Conquer Red Alert, right? Because like there are places where that you have to explore in order for them to show up on the map. But then by the end of it, like you come back and you go like, no, this area is a dead end, this area is a dead end, this area is a dead end, this is my route, this is where I actually choose to go. And oftentimes you actually can see the path clearly and you know that's where you have to go. But a big part in you decides to fuck around in places that make no sense only because you want to get them out of your system. And it feels like we're either getting them out of our system, like let me touch the fire to make sure it's hot kind of style. Like, fuck, man, I knew it was hot. I knew I would get burnt, but I just had to touch it kind of style. But in another way, it feels like you get the most of courage when you're actually exploring what more is, because it kind of awkwardly builds your confidence. Because you explore that map, you knew it was useless, but maybe you learned a skill right now, or you applied what you learned through that exploration on a skill you had, or just the fact that you were exploring aimlessly to see what could come up, knowing full well you have a direction otherwise, could be considered a break from like the intensity of allowing what you want to become more of a reality. Because like I'm trying my best not to use the two-dimensional frame, because 2 days ago or a couple of days ago I used a video up, down, left, right, and just basically right or wrong. All of these are concepts that make no fucking sense. Really just only matters like just do it. There's no going up and there's no going down. There's always kind of like it's happening whether you like it or not. So like make it happen the way you want or the other way around. But less is more only when you know what more is basically us kind of like reaching a new level. And even though it's not a level that needs that much attention from us, we still go and kind of explore it simply because who knows what options, who knows how we might interact with ourselves after we gave it the chance, or we gave the randomness of like a lot of extras the chance. And I'm saying it right now, and it feels the same way about my code because I over exaggerated a lot of things the past repo I had, and now I'm kind of like able to see a thinner line instead of just like a bundle of shit on top of themselves. Hey, let's consider it a video, man. Yalla, I'll see you on number 2.